Do you swear that the evidence you shall give on this examination shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
What are the names of all of the government officials that you have met with outside of government offices?
I'm more than happy to provide that information in writing, but I'm not prepared to do that right now televised.
Are you able to name a single? Well, sir, it's not your discretion which answers that you're able to provide in writing.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Mr. Firth, it's correct that you have legal counsel with you this morning?
That's correct.
So this is the first time of your appearances where you have a lawyer present, but didn't in previous appearances. Have you ever lied to a parliamentary committee before?
I think your previous testimony, you see the answer with that one, about the chalet and the cottage.
So is that a yes?
I advise you to go and watch my previous testimony.
Well, I was there, and I asked the question, and of course, you did lie about Mr. McDonald's secondary residence, quite famously on it not being a cottage, but in fact it being a chalet. Further, you lied about meeting government officials outside of government offices, and further, you lied about providing hospitality to government officials. There was a great deal of information that was requested of you that was not furnished to the committee, promising to tell the committee who in government contacted you about ArriveCan. That information hasn't been provided to us. You didn't disclose meetings with government officials, and you failed to provide documentation that the committee has asked you for. Last week, government officials announced that files concerning GCstrategies' role and involvement in ArriveScam have been sent to the RCMP. Did the government make you aware of that? Yes or no, please?
No, they have not.
Has the RCMP contacted you about ArriveCan?
No, they have not.
So the RCMP has, further, they have not interviewed you?
That is correct.
Have you been contacted by the RCMP about any work relating to any companies or ventures that you're involved in and their work with the Government of Canada or government officials?
No, I have not.
Do you know if your partner, Darren Anthony, has been contacted by the RCMP to the same effect?
I do know, and he has not.
If requested by the RCMP, will GCstrategies files, computers, emails, cell phones, and any area where data is stored or devices that have been used to communicate with the Government of Canada as part of their investigation into the ArriveScam, will you voluntarily submit that information to the RCMP?
We will deal directly with the RCMP once they contact us.
Sir, how much did you state in your previous appearance before this committee were you paid to work on ArriveCan?
For the ArriveCan application build, which is what we gave our numbers to the committee for last year, we said it was approximately $11 million was the application build.
Okay. The Auditor General, though you've said that all of the reporting about your company since your last appearance has been false, there's been heavy media reporting about the work of Canada's Auditor General. She detailed a different number. Is the information that the Auditor General has submitted incorrect?
Yes, it is. We actually were asked by the Auditor General to give comment prior to the report being published, whether we could support the numbers that they were putting in there. And actually, if you remember from my last previous testimony when I was ridiculed and being called disingenuous for not having the true cost of ArriveCan, we discussed the fact that there were 3 COVID-19 pandemic contracts. There was not one that was solely set aside for ArriveCan. So I can understand why it was hard for the Auditor General with her also indicating that some of the task authorizations for ArriveCan could have had resources doing no work. Since my testimony and how I got the numbers there, I painstakingly went through every single invoice, spoke to every consultant, and got an understanding of what their level of effort was for the ArriveCan application build. And my numbers were in line with what Mr. Utano testified last time.
Okay. That's information that you ought to have had at your last appearance, but I'll take the Auditor General's word that the number was in excess of $19 million, which of course is not the number that you submitted to this committee. At your second appearance before this committee, you testified that you did not meet with government officials outside of government offices, and we now know that you did that on multiple occasions. Why did you lie to this committee?
It was not a lie. I just was unaware. I hadn't checked all of my Outlook, but I can tell the committee today that I have met with officials outside of work.
Of course, we know that, sir, and we understand that you're telling us that now, having been caught in the lie. The question is, why did you believe it was necessary to attempt that deception before this parliamentary committee?
It wasn't a deception. I just wasn't informed of all the meetings that I had or had not had. I wouldn't have access to my Outlook.
What are the names of all of the government officials that you have met with outside of government offices?
I'm more than happy to provide that information in writing, but I'm not prepared to do that right now televised.
Are you able to name a single? Well, sir, it's not your discretion which answers that you're able to provide in writing. I'm asking you a question. Are you refusing to answer the question?
No, I gave you my answer. I'm not refusing to answer the question. I will give you the names.
So what are the names, sir? What are the names, sir?
That is, yeah, I have to interrupt. That is our time. Perhaps we can get back to it in the next round.
So when ArriveCan came to be and the government was looking at trying to put this together, did you approach them or did someone approach you?
First time I knew that there was going to be a pandemic response contract, I was reached out to by PSPC. They were the ones who informed me that there was going to be a contract issued to us. It was a pre-contract email saying, just so you know, GCstrategies is being selected for a contract award of $2.35 million.
And who signed that email? Who did that come from?
That came from Angela Durgan of PSPC.
Prior to that, you had been dealing with Bottler AI and two founders of that company. And they're the ones that came to PSPC and came and complained about the processes of their contract, which there was no contract. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they issued concerns that there was privileged information, or I don't understand. Explain to me, what is Bottler AI's issue in regards to your engagement?
Well, that's actually a good question. We're still unclear of what the misconducted allegations are towards our company. My understanding is it's being referred to the RCMP. We have not been contacted. So unfortunately, I cannot give comment on what those allegations are because we're just not aware what they are.
So you didn't have a contract and Bottler did not have a contract, but you were trying to promote Bottler in accessing opportunities with government situations. Is that correct?
Yeah. We actually even at one time, well, we were starting to try and get their own vehicle so the government could miss the middleman out and go direct to Bottler.
How many people did Bottler employ at that point?
They were a two-person company out of a penthouse.
And so they were trying to gain contracts with government through your support, through your relationships, through your experience. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, we were offering free business development and sales leads to help them get contracts within the federal government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to circle back to some of the questions that my colleague was asking in regards to who from the government would have contacted you for these contracts. And I know you provided us with a name for a contract, and you stated that it was Angela Durgan from PSPC who had signed off on an email. I think that was in regards to the first contract that you had received. But in fact, you received 4 contracts for ArriveCan, 3 which were non-competitive and 1 that was supposed to be competitive. So I'm going to ask if you could provide us with the names of those contacts on those contracts.
So, and again, thank you for the question, but they were never ArriveCan contracts. They were all pandemic response contracts, and ArriveCan was not solely used on just one contract alone. It was used across two of them. So they're pandemic response ones as opposed to 4 ArriveCan contracts.
Okay, well, I do understand that the national security exemption was put in place during the pandemic. And so can you provide us with the names of the contacts from the government when you were awarded the 4 contracts?
So Angela Durgan was 3 of them. And I don't have the lady's the full name for the 4th one, but I'm more than happy to share that with you after this.
I would appreciate that, because this information was requested from you last October, and you promised to undertake to provide those names for us, and you didn't. So I'm a little bit leery about that.
No, I did provide those names as part of our evidence package. I gave all 3 emails. There were the contract awards, and all 3 of them showed Angela Durgan. The reason why the 4th one wasn't provided, because that was only asked for the COVID contracts, not for the 4th one.
Okay, so we're going to make
information was provided.
So we're going to make a distinction in regards to your contracts as to whether it was the pandemic, COVID, or ArriveCan. I got that. So you will
National
provide
security exemption.
Yes, national security exemption, absolutely. So you have agreed to provide us with the name of the other individual that you were in contact with.
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much. The Auditor General, and I understand that you've testified here today that in her report she didn't provide accurate information, but she found that GCstrategies was involved in the development of a contract from the Government of Canada to your firm, valued at $25 million, that you received in May of 2022. Who did you communicate with from the Government of Canada while you were helping to create that criteria?
So first of all, the committee has subpoenaed me here to speak on behalf of things that I can talk about. Also, my understanding is these allegations have been moved to the RCMP, and in fear of interfering with the RCMP investigation, I don't think I can comment on that right now.
So the RCMP didn't comment.
So it's my understanding from testimony just a few minutes ago that you have been contacted by the RCMP. You're not under investigation right now, but you know what the RCMP is investigating?
I have the same information everybody else. I have what I'm watching on testimony. I'm seeing what committee members are putting on Twitter. So I'm assuming all of the PSBC's testimony said all the findings from the Auditor General's report has been sent through there. So again, with that being a broad stroke and with actually not getting disclosure like we asked for prior to being here, understanding what those documents and that information was, I cannot comment right now on that information.
You're not going to let us know who it was you were meeting with as you were constructing a contract that you knew you would end up getting?
Yeah, that's your words, not mine. I'm just saying right now, as a result of this being pushed to RCMP, with all efforts of the committee behind it, unfortunately, I cannot comment on an ongoing RCMP investigation.
Okay, well, I guess what I would ask is this commonplace? We'll get away from the actual contract in question, but is this commonplace for IT firms, for consulting firms to sit at the table and help determine the criteria for a contract that they are going to actually be bidding on?
I'm not sure if I can comment on that. I can't comment on what everybody. I don't do that personally. I can't comment on what every other of the 635 other firms do.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
The witness is refusing to answer questions under the auspices of a hypothetical, according to him, and he is required to answer the questions put to him by this committee, unless I'm mistaken. And if I am mistaken, I just ask for you to correct my understanding. But the witness is required to provide this information, and his lawyer would be able to tell him that it wouldn't prejudice a police investigation.
It's a fair point. We do require witnesses to answer questions. Actually, from looking at the item from swearing in witnesses refusal to answer questions, a failure to reply truthfully may give rise to a charge of contempt in the House. Mr. Genuis, for 5 minutes, please. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Firth, this is a sad example of corruption and potential criminality, but it also exposes incredible waste within this government, especially in the area of procurement and contracts to well-connected consultants for, in many cases, no discernible work. So I want to try, in my round of questions, to follow the money that was spent. The Auditor General's report estimates $59.5 million spent on the app, and further that your company received directly $19.1 million of that money, even though by your own admission, all that you did was recruitment of other individuals and companies. That's an incredible sum for quote-unquote recruitment. But you told the committee that the Auditor General's information is not correct. You dispute the $19.1 million figure. You say it was only $11 million. Is that correct?
The application build, that's correct.
Okay, so what happened to the missing $8.1 million? What do you think accounts for the discrepancy?
Well, so you'll see in my evidence package, we've actually invoiced CBSA in 3 years close to $22 million, approximately. I'm not disputing the fact that $19 million wasn't invoiced through my company monthly. I'm disputing that $19.1 million is completely attributed towards the ArriveCAN application build.
Okay, so your testimony is that you've received $22 million from CBSA over the same period. You simply are disputing the categorization of it as being all related to ArriveCAN. What I would add to this in terms of frankly the absurdity is that the invoices that you've submitted to this committee, some of which are very kind of vague and unclear in terms of what they actually refer to, but they add up to $9.6 million. So you've shown this committee invoices for $9.6 million. You've also said you got $11 million that you categorize as related to ArriveCAN, and $22 million in total. So how do you explain the discrepancy between what you've shown us invoices for and what you said was you actually received?
So first of all, the $22 million is not just solely ArriveCAN. There was multiple projects we were working on during the pandemic. These were not ArriveCAN contracts, right? There were 3 pandemic.
The Auditor General says they are, but I was asking specifically about the difference between the $9.6 million and the $11 million. You said you got $11 million, but you didn't provide us with $11 million worth of invoices.
We sent hundreds of pages of documents over. I can follow up and make sure that those ones would result to $11 million.
Yeah,
I've done this again like
hundreds of pages doesn't absolve you of the need to provide accurate information, sir. And just in terms of the difference between the 19.1 and the 11 million, you started off your testimony by saying that everybody's lying and saying mean things about you. The media is wrong. The MPs are wrong. But you're also now saying the Auditor General's wrong. What are we as a committee to make of the fact that you want us to believe that everybody is wrong in their figures except you, and yet the invoices you've sent to the committee don't add up to the figure you said was spent was given to you in relation to ArriveCAN?
Yeah, I also said as well, it's in my opening statement that it's this testimony and this committee that have also had death threats against myself and my wife, which had photographs of my kids being taken.
Sir, I'm looking for accurate information on the amount of taxpayers' money that went to your company. Now,
we've invoiced 1,500 times $22 million.
Well, the invoices do not line up with the figures you've given. Sir, I'd like to know for all the money that you earned on this project, after expenses, what was the total amount of money that you and your partner took home from this project?
I haven't got the exact numbers after taxes, after expenses, through dividends, but I've told you it's approximately $2.5 million.
Each?
Approximately
Each?
2.5. No, in total.
Okay.
That's the
So
20%.
So you and your partner became millionaires through this project, and you want us to believe that all of the rest of it, in addition to the 2.8 million, were expenses, even though all you did is recruit. I mean, how expensive is a LinkedIn account these days?
Well, $2.5 million over 2 years is 1.25 divided by 2 people.
How many hours? How many hours did you spend working on sending the LinkedIn invitation, sir?
That has no bearing on this project, does it?
I think it does. How much you earn for what work is the question we're asking, right? And the numbers don't line up. And
Just a quick question and a quick answer, please.
Yeah, how many hours did you spend working on this project in exchange for the millions of dollars that you and your partner got for the act of recruiting?
It would have been between 30 to 40 hours every month with the invoicing, with doing timesheets, with doing accounting, with doing paying our resources.
So what makes you so lucky that you got this opportunity?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Now, I think it's pretty clear, looking at the relationship between you, Mr. Firth, and Mr. McDonald, I think it's pretty clear from your testimony what's in it for you, which is that you've established yourself as the government's go-to guy, that you have the ability to run these contracts through your company, and Mr. McDonald therefore funnels a bunch of work to you, and you're able to charge these commissions. That's been well established. What I've had a harder time understanding is what's in it for Mr. McDonald. And I'm going to go back to some Globe and Mail reporting from January 16th, and this involves communications between you and the two Bottler principals. And you urged them to single out Mr. McDonald for praise when meeting with other senior government officials. And the quote here from you, Mr. Firth, is, "I just want to make sure that he gets taken care of," right? This was told to Ms. Dutt and Mr. Morv. And I'm just wondering if you can clarify what him being taken care of would entail, and why it was so important that Mr. McDonald got taken care of, in your view.
So this was no financial benefit at all, or any kind of transaction before. I just felt that the opportunity that Mr. McDonald working with Bottler and understanding the importance of the harassment that was happening within the public safety portfolio, that I felt like there had to be some recognition, whether it's a pat on the back or job well done, for identifying the issues with the public safety and being the pathfinder organization to move forward.
So the benefit for him from this relationship was that praise sent his way would help him advance in the organization, and the benefit for you was that you would be able to charge these commissions and continue to get work. Is that a fair characterization of sort of this reciprocity that you had going on?
Nope, not at all.
Why not?
Well, because the intentions was, I was not going to rub his back, he rubs my back. This is not, I'm going to make you have advancements through your career so you can keep funneling contracts. You have to bear in mind that the first contract, after knowing Mr. McDonald since 2010, the first contract I was awarded while he was in the department was 10 years later. Like, that doesn't sound like it's a relationship that's been going back and forth many times.
But the quote is literally, "I just want to make sure he gets taken care of," right?
That could be recognition for a job well done. That doesn't guarantee a promotion.
Okay, it reads to me like something more than recognition, being taken care of.
So, quick question, Mr. Bachrach, please.
Okay, I'll cede my time, Mr. Chair, and dive into the next question next round. Thank you.
Thanks. Mrs. Block, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Firth, I'm going to circle back to my line of questioning regarding GCstrategies' involvement in developing criterion on the fourth contract that you would have been awarded through the CBSA. Both the Auditor General and the Procurement Ombuds identified the overly restrictive criterion on that fourth contract, which obviously raised concerns for both of them of deeper concern to the Auditor General is that she went further and identified that GCstrategies were at the table. And so, look, you would have been meeting with public office holders in order to set this criteria. They are accountable to Parliament. And so I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked earlier. I'm trusting that you've had an opportunity to speak with your lawyer. Who did you communicate with from the Government of Canada? And I need the names. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So let me address the about the requirements being overly restrictive. I think I've heard in testimony and read in reports that the e-portal did a CPSS search, and there were actually 40 qualified vendors that could bid on this RFP. And actually, I think 10 even showed interest. So it seems a little subjective after the fact to call it restrictive when there were already 40 qualified vendors who could actually respond to that. And secondly, I've had a chance to speak with my lawyer, and I'm sticking to what my line of is with regards to this is under investigation by the RCMP, and therefore I cannot interfere with that.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if you could provide us with any clarity on that.
Thanks, Mrs. Block. Mr. Firth, I understand what you're saying, but it's a very direct and simple question, and we do have rules, and I'm going to refer back to it. Witnesses must answer all questions which the committee puts to them. You may object to a question asked by an individual committee member. However, the committee agrees that the question to be put to the witness is obliged to reply. Actions a witness refuses questions may be reported to the House, and I think I can speak for everyone. We don't want to get to that point, but I think it's a fair question, and I don't think it's one directly related to any potential investigation. If I read it right, it's the commentary that GC helped write the requirements that you in turn won the contract for. And I think that's what we're looking for. It is, if I correct Mrs. Block, is, who did you discuss this with the department with?
Yeah, so again, I've the first 3 contracts, the names have already been provided back in October of 2022, and I promised the committee member that I'll get the 4th person to them after this meeting.
Okay.
So I want, just for greater clarity, I'm looking for the individual that you would have met with in developing the criteria, not who signed off on the contract in this particular case. I do want that name, but now I'm asking, who did you sit at the table with to develop the criteria for this contract?
And again, apologies, but after speaking with my lawyer, my stance still stands the same with the RCMP investigation pending. I don't interfere with that.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure where we go with that, but I'm sure we'll discuss that in due time. I'm going to then turn some of my questions to a slide deck for a possible app in March 2020 that you were asked to create. It's my understanding that this deck was presented to Min Doan, who is a key government official that was involved in ArriveCan, and that particular app had a Distill mobile logo. If that is correct, who asked you to provide the deck?
I'm sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. You were asked to put together a slide deck for a possible app in March of 2020. Who asked you to provide that deck?
I'm more than happy to get that to you in writing. I was not aware of this question coming up. So March 2020 at Distill deck. Yep, I can get that to you.
Okay. So you were contacted from the government, and you were told you are receiving a contract for ArriveCan. Is there anyone at the CBSA that would have to declare a conflict of interest on contracts that you are bidding on?
No, there's not.
Okay, so you are not related to anyone at the CBSA?
Correct, I'm not.
Okay. Are you related to anyone working for a government department or any public office holder?
All of my family is in the UK.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's turn now to Von Brennan. He is an Ottawa-based consultant, and it is my understanding that you know him professionally. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know him in any other capacity?
No, I do not.
Okay, Mr. Brennan's wife worked at Procurement Canada. That's the department responsible for government contracts. Were you aware of this?
Not until now.
Okay, just, I guess, another convenient coincidence. Who were your contacts with the government at the following departments and agencies? We have Canada Border Services Agency. It's my understanding there are 134 contracts there. Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, 24 contracts, and Employment and Social Development Canada. So who are your contacts with all of these departments?
I'd like to provide all of those details after this meeting, please. I would not like to speak about it publicly, just how this committee is going. So if you wouldn't mind, I would provide that information to you after this meeting.
We're out of time anyways. Perhaps we can get back to that in the next round.
What the Auditor General and the Ombudsman had stated is that you were participating in the design of the mandatory bid criteria. And the argument is that this would have favored GCstrategies. And I wanted to ask, how often are you a participant? Do you participate in the design of mandatory bid criteria?
We never do.
Because the Auditor General had stated and the Procurement Ombudsman that you were a participant in designing the bid criteria that may have favored GCstrategies. So can you address that particular issue?
What I can say and what I'm prepared to say is that the e-portal system from PSPC identified through those mandatory criteria that there were still 40 qualified vendors that could go after this. That doesn't sound like it's overly restrictive. If there's 40 vendors, they can go after this.
But you could understand, Mr. Firth, we're concerned that a vendor is actually working with whether it's CBSA or whether it's Procurement Services Canada to design the bid itself. That seems like that's sort of inside baseball, and so I want you to address that charge, because that seems very serious to me, because it has the potential to reduce competition.
Well, what I can say is that there was no bid rigging involved at all in the fourth COVID contract.
Okay, one other question I wanted to ask you to clarify is my colleagues across the table often refer to GCstrategies as two guys in a basement that do no work and that received $11 million in contracts. Can you clarify what is the role of a staffing agency and respond to that charge that it's two guys in a basement that do no work?
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's two guys in a staffing agency, but also two business owners. So there's also the amount of work is actually doubled compared to just being an employee. You know, we're doing security clearances, we're recruiting, we're meeting with partners, we're networking with independent subcontractors, understanding what they do. We're preparing RFPs, we're writing RFPs, we're working with all these people to contribute and do bid responses. We do invoicing. We do, that's just a few things. It's a full-time job. I mean, we're here to provide resources to the federal government, again, until the procurement's changed and they go direct. That's our role.
And you assemble the people that do the work. Is that correct? That is your job? You assemble the people that do the work.
Correct. That can be staff augmentation, where it's one person for a project, or it can be a requirement for a team of resources.
Okay, sort of like, we see, for example...
We're past our time, Mr. Kuzmierczak.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barrett, go ahead, please.
That we have a round of questions with you. It seems like there's a lot of cleanup afterwards. I have to go back to the question Ms. Block asked you. That was, who were your contacts with the government at the following departments and agencies? CBSA, Innovation, Science, Economic Development Canada, Employment and Social Development Canada. Are you telling us you don't know the answers to that question, or is your answer that you're refusing to provide us with the information that you have?
Oh, not at all. Actually, I think my answer was I will provide those to you in writing after this meeting.
Do you know
That's
the
exactly
answer?
what I said.
My question is,
I do know.
Then provide
I
it,
do know
sir.
the answer. I will after this meeting with writing.
You know, I think that you have a grave misunderstanding of how this process works, and your refusal to answer questions here is a contempt of Parliament. And so that is something that we can take up. I know it's great. You take great umbrage in the fact that that a subpoena had to be issued, and that had you not appeared today, a warrant would have been issued, and you would have been arrested and brought before this committee. So you're here very much not because you want to be forthcoming. You're here only under the threat of arrest. So that's what we're dealing with and trying to get answers from you. So you'll have to excuse me if I don't believe you, sir, that you're going to bring us the answers after the cameras go off and the committee is adjourned. Because in your first back and forth that you and I had, you admitted to having perjured yourself in a previous appearance at this committee. So I have to go back and talk about that again. You admitted to meeting officials in private residences, and you exposed your own lie. And so I need to know, what are the names of government officials that you have met with anywhere outside of government offices? Just the names.
First of all, I want to address the first thing you said, where I don't want to be here because I want to be arrested. I don't want to be here because my family and myself and my kids have been threatened. And people have come like, that's the real reason
Sir,
I don't want to be here.
the question is very straightforward. It's for a list of names.
Yeah, which I'm happy to give you, and I'm admitting I will give you those within 24 hours after the testimony.
I don't believe you. Did you ever meet with Philip Johnston in a private residence or any place other than a government office?
I've met with Philip Johnson outside of work, yes.
Where?
At a pub.
When?
2021.
We're going to circle back to that.
Right.
Have you ever met with Min Doan in a private residence or anywhere other than a government office?
No, I have not.
Same question. Cameron McDonald.
I have met him outside of work. We heard the testimony 3 times.
When and where, sir?
I'm happy to provide that information in 24 hours. I don't have that in front of me.
Same question. Antonio Utano.
Yes, I have.
When and where?
Again, I will get you that information.
Kelly Belanger.
I have never met with Kelly Belanger outside of work.
Mark Briard.
Yes, I've met with Mark Briard outside of work.
When and where?
I'll get you that information.
So this is interesting, and so again, you'll have to excuse my my unwillingness to take at face value that you're going to provide us information after, because I asked you these questions when you appeared before this committee before, and you said that you hadn't met with officials, government officials outside of government offices. That, sir, and you can check with your lawyer or with a dictionary, is a lie. It's perjury. At your first appearance before this committee, you testified that you did not know and were not privy to any hospitality being given to anyone who worked for the government of Canada. Is that true, or is that a lie?
I'm answering your question. I've just given you the names of all the people, and I've agreed that I've actually taken these people. We've been outside of work.
The question, sir, is on hospitality. You had said previously that you weren't privy to information on whether that had happened, and it seems like that's a lie.
No, I'm just telling you I'm privy now to information that happened, and I've agreed that those people I've met outside of work.
So, well, you're agreeing now. You disagreed before, sir. Both in documents and testimony, we now know that you, sir, in fact, provided hospitality to Government of Canada officials on multiple occasions. And you lied about it. You lied about it, but you lied about it to the committee. If you're content that everything was well within the bounds, if you've acted above board, my question to you, sir, is why is it every time you come to this committee do you lie to parliamentarians and you lie to Canadians?
I'm telling the truth. I have met with all of those people outside of work in a hospitality manner.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Sousa, please. For
Chair,
5.
just a point of order. There were a number of instances, obviously, during Mr. Barrett's questions in which the witness point blank refused to answer questions. I wonder if you, as chair, can, on behalf of the committee, direct the witness to provide answers to the questions that were asked.
Mr. Firth, I think there was a couple you said that you had but would not provide at this time, but we're going to wait till later to provide for us.
That was just the information for the resources that the people, Canadian officials for those certain departments. I'm providing those within 24 hours. The contacts, yes. Like I'm not saying no to any of these questions. I'm just saying I will provide them after.
Do you have? But I guess the question is, do you have that information now with you?
I don't have the information with me right now. That's part of the reason why I'm asking for 24 hours to collect it.
Okay.
Chair,
Yeah, just bear with us.
That is not what the witness said. The witness said, in fact, that with the way the meeting is going, he wasn't prepared to provide them in public.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Firth,
that was actually
Mr. Firth. That is, I heard as chair, I have the information, but I'm not going to provide it right now. I'll provide it later in writing, which is different than I don't have the information now. I think you need to be very, very clear with your answers.
I will be very clear
I don't
with what
have
I'm
this
saying.
information available to me now. I'll provide it later, or I'm not willing to provide it at this time.
Thank you, Chair. I'll clarify. I have the information not with me at the present, and I will provide it within 24 hours when I need to collect it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Firth. I realize it's difficult, but I just ask you please take the time to clarify these things carefully.
Mr. Firth, I want to circle back on some numbers that we discussed in my last round. You told this committee that you and your partner put in about 30 to 40 hours per month over 2 years, and that your take home at the end of the whole ArriveCAN process was $2.5 million. I think your figures understate the reality of how much you made. Your invoices don't line up with your own figures, and your figures don't match the Auditor General's. So I think the realities are understated by your numbers. But even if we take at face value your numbers, so doing that math, say 40 hours per month over 2 years, leading to 2.5 million take home, that would measure out that you earned about $2,600 per hour. So, sir, how do you justify to taxpayers that you, as a recruiter, were effectively billing them at over $2,500 per hour for your involvement in the ArriveCAN app?
You have to look more about the fact that this is not an hourly job. I mean, it says 30 to 40. I can be working in the evenings. I can be working in the daytimes. I can be working on the weekends. Like, you must appreciate, like, there's a lot more that goes into just getting a set. This is not an hourly job, first of all.
But I asked you the numbers, right? I just asked you to tell us how many hours, and I did a simple calculation based on your estimates. So, okay, maybe you work on weekends, so you think your weekend rate is $5,000 an hour, and your week time rate is only $1,000 an hour. The point is, I just did the math based on your, I think, respectfully lowball numbers. And they come out to $2,600 per hour. Do you think for Canadians that are struggling under the burden of taxation and other challenges that they face in terms of affordability and cost of living, do you think you can really justify to them that you, who was recruiting other people to do IT work, were billing at $2,600 an hour?
First of all, I don't make this decision. The government obviously sees value in what myself and my firms and firms like us do. So I can't comment on what my hourly wage is. I can just comment on the fact that we've had 55 contracts prior to these ones at CBSA where the government's seen value in everything we do. So
right, sir.
I don't make that decision.
I actually think you make a fair point there. This is a question that I should be asking to the government. If they're paying you at this rate, why are they doing it? And these are questions that I think we need answers to. Sir, I want to ask you about Dalian's role in this deal. We found out some very striking things about Dalian recently. As far as you were able to see, what did they do for the $7.9 million that they purportedly got for their involvement in ArriveCAN?
I'm sorry, I had no interactions with during ArriveCAN. They had their own contract, and I had my own. didn't have any interactions with
Did you
them.
have any discussions with them before or after the bid?
No, not at all. They were not part of they were not part of any of the three.
So
pandemic
you're telling us you
response
never
projects.
discussed or the ArriveCAN work with Dalian.
Oh no,
Oh, you did discuss
sorry.
it.
Go
with them.
ahead.
Did you or didn't you?
Oh, there was. We've spoken about mobile application work. We've never spoken about contracts. Never spoken about ArriveCAN specific. It may have been mobile work.
Sir,
mobile applications.
did you or did you not have discussions with Dalian about the ArriveCAN project? The contracts, the work that was done, anything to do with ArriveCAN?
We'd have had conversations, but way after the contracts were awarded. This was nothing to do with back and forth before any contract.
Okay,
This
so
was
do
just
you know what
communication.
they actually did?
I was not part of their contract. I was not working with them. Like they were completely siloed doing their work, and I was siloed doing my work.
But you had conversations with them, maybe not, but after the fact.
We never had conversations prior to ArriveCAN contract awards. We speak.
Sir, I have one more question. This is respectfully getting nowhere. My colleague asked you that the Auditor General found that GCstrategies were involved in the development of a contract from the Government of Canada valued at $2.5 million for your firm received in May 2022, that you were involved in the development of that contract. Could you please tell us, sir, who did you communicate with the Government of Canada for the contract received in May 2022? We want the names, and I would ask you to answer that question. I would ask the chair to put that question to you on behalf of the committee and insist on an answer. And an answer right now.
Are you clear on the question, Mr. Firth?
I am. And again, I'm standing strong with what I've said before. This is being pushed by the committee to put all these allegations up against me and my firm to the RCMP. And at this point, if there's an ongoing investigation, I'm not prepared to comment on it right now.
Just on a point of order, what you think my motivations are for asking the question is not at all germane. I'd like the chair to put the question to you, and you have an obligation to answer it, whether you want to or not, because of the rules that apply to Parliament, to its committees, and to witnesses who come before it. So, Mr. Chair, could you put that question and insist on the
Mr. Firth,
answer?
we would appreciate an answer, and the fact that you've stated yourself you have not been, or GC or your partner have not been contacted by the RCMP leads me to believe perhaps they're not going down that path with you. So I think the committee and taxpayers would appreciate a response to Mr. Genuis.
Appreciate the question there, Chair. But the truth is, I mean, what's being reported on Twitter, and as a result of some things that are said here in this committee, and the fact that it was pushed by most of the committee members, with everybody that's coming forth with this, to push all information to the RCMP, I have to assume that actually is happening. And even PSPC and the Auditor General have said they've moved their information over there.
Right, but and again, and I'm sorry to interfere, Mr. Genuis, or intervene, but you've stated yourself they haven't started anything with GC. I'd hate us for not be able to get to any responses based on a supposition that they may one day. I think it's a fair question. Would you please provide an answer?
Would you mind if I just take 2 seconds with my lawyer, please?
Of course. Just turn off your mic, please. Colleagues, we were... Sorry, Mr. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Firth.
Sorry, thank you. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity, Chair, that you've laid it out clearly, but at this point, we're still remaining with our stance of there possibly being a pending RCMP investigation.
I will advise you, as I'm sure you're aware, you do have parliamentary privilege, which would allow you the right to speak, but I understand. I'll let my colleagues who brought up the question pursue it a different way.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Mr. Firth, my question is directed at you, of course. I'd like to know if your company has contracts with private companies.
Yes, we did.
Dans quel secteur?
In what particular sector?
Yes, we did, rather.
Dans quel secteur?
In what particular sector or sectors?
Sorry, apologies, I missed the last one.
Okay, what kind of activities are they involved in?
Oh, general IT. Oh, the private companies?
Mm-hmm.
There are IT software firms. They are system integrators.
Parlons maintenant de la qualité de votre...
Let's now talk about the quality of your work. with ArriveCan. What are your thoughts about the final product, with all the ups and downs, the vicissitudes that Canadians had to come to grips with throughout this application and its process?
I think understanding the circumstances where the whole of Canada and the whole of the world was in, and the fact that this went through 170 renditions and they were delivered always on time, I think our work was done very well, and I feel like the application was a success. I believe it was 260. I believe the application was a success. We had 260 million times the app was open.
A success. You're saying that your application was a success. You're serious now, right?
I think it did exactly what it was supposed to. It was to help open the borders. It was help to streamline the process. It was to be a low touch application. I think if you look at those, there was a moving target. There was PHAC was sending out new policies every month or so.
Ok, Monsieur Firth, qu'est-ce que vous avez à dire
Mr. Firth, what do you have to say to the over 10,000 people who have joined a class action lawsuit because your app led them to be subjected to a quarantine that they weren't supposed to be subjected to? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's very unfortunate for those 10,000 people, but I cannot comment on things that happen within the application.
Pardon?
I provide the resources.
Monsieur, un instant, là. Vous êtes...
Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. You said that it was a success. And yet, thousands of Canadians were affected in this way. Over 10,000 Canadians have filed a class action against your app because your app led to a quarantine that they should never have been subjected to. So why are you washing your hands of this and passing the buck?
I'm sorry, I really have no comment on this. That's not my line of expertise.
Incroyable.
Unbelievable. If it's not your bailiwick or expertise, whose is it if it's not yours?
We were not involved in the architecture. You understand this project was derived and project managed by the CBSA.
Mon Dieu.
My God. How are you going to tell these over 10,000 people that you raked in profits of millions of dollars with this application? Is it really worth $2.5 million in windfalls? We're talking about 10,000 people who were quarantined that never should have been because of your app.
Sorry, can you repeat? My headphones just broke.
OK. Vous avez affirmé tantôt.
Listen, you asserted earlier that you made a profit of $2.5 million. Those are your figures. We know that the AG doesn't think so, but we'll take what you said at face value. That's $2.5 million for 40 hours per month. You've made a profit of $2.5 million for this app, and yet I'm telling you that there are 10,200 Canadians that were subject to quarantine when they shouldn't have been because of your app, because that is what has occurred, and you're saying that it was a success. Was it really worth $2.5 million profit, that kind of success story?
Like I said previously, I don't make that decision. The government obviously sees value in what we do. That's why we were working there for 3 years.
Alors, c'est qui le responsable?
So, where does the buck stop if it doesn't stop with you?
Again, I did not make the decision. The government sees value in what we do. We were not part of architecting this application.
Is a significant part of your job contacting and communicating with government, their departments, agencies, or crown corporations?
Yes, it is.
And how many hours per month would you say that you spend on that?
It's hard to quantify that because if we're busy with existing contracts, then there's contract management and other components versus new business development and interactions and identifying new opportunities.
let's look for a number. You can use you and your partner combined. Mr. Anthony, how many hours per month?
Sorry, I can answer that honestly, accurately. Sorry.
Is it more than 80?
Yes, per month, for sure.
More than 80 per month. Okay. Is it more than 100?
I can't quantify. I'm just giving you an answer of 80. More than 80.
So do you also that includes proactively making the government aware of the services that you offer?
Again, sorry, it depends. It depends on whether or not we are. With ArriveCam, there was not 80 hours of meeting and proposing and getting new business because we were managing 100 resources at that time.
Are you registered?
So it varies.
Are you registered to lobby?
No, I'm not, because we do not charge a fee.
As an owner of GCstrategies, you obviously have control over your company's website. You were here 16 months ago as part of the Arrive scam inquiry, and I asked you in October 2022 to provide names of senior government officials that offer glowing endorsements for you on your website. I want to read some of those because you haven't had a chance over the last 16 months, I guess, to furnish us with that information. Here's one for you. I think they are first and foremost are a taxpayer. They, GCstrategies, see the bigger picture and do not chase the quick sale. I think they are first and foremost are a taxpayer and see efficiency and getting the best value for government. That's the chief data officer of the public sector. Who was that? What's their name?
So first of all, apologies for not getting that information to you. I thought I had. I mean, I sent hundreds of pages at that date, and I'm more than happy to give you that information in writing.
Okay, let's be serious, sir. You've had 16 months, and so you want us to believe that you're going to provide us with that information now that you've been asked again. Government of Canada senior executive said, quote, GCstrategies listen and try to find solutions to my problem versus selling me a solution to a problem I've never had. Who was that person?
So I'm sorry, you can ask me the 3 or 4 that are on there, and my answer is going to be the same. I will get you that information. I promise you that. I thought I'd sent it over 16 months ago.
Let me be very clear that in the Arrive scam, there are all kinds of players who play all kinds of different roles, and you've demonstrated yourself to be a liar. You've lied before a parliamentary committee on multiple occasions. You even undertook to provide to me this information 16 months ago. You and I had this exchange. And now you're here, and the only reason you came was because you were threatened to be arrested, and you've come virtually, and now your undertaking is to provide the information you promised, cross your heart, that you're going to do it this time, but you couldn't do it before. It strains reason and certainly demonstrates that you don't have any credibility when it comes to the questions that we ask, and which leaves me to wonder what I should even bother asking you, because I can't believe anything that you're going to say. Will you provide us with those names right now? You obviously know who the VP of a major crown corporation was who appears on your website. The Chief Information Officer for the Government of Canada. What was the name? You know.
I said previously, I will give you these information.
No, sir. I do not accept that. You will provide this committee with a name. You told us 16 months. You've had 16 months. You've had 16 months to do it. And this is your opportunity now to demonstrate that you are true to your word. So are you going to make that demonstration, or are you going to prove what we know to be true, and that's that you're not honest?
Like I said, I appreciate the question. I will give you the answers.
Yeah, your appreciation for the question isn't the reason that I asked it. Okay. I'm looking for the information.
I said I would give you the information.
Yeah, you also said that 16 months ago. Sir, it is not just contempt of Parliament, but it's contemptuous to Canadians. They are lined up at food banks in record numbers, and you are raking in millions of dollars off the backs of Canadians. And then when you're called to provide even just the smallest bit of accountability, you laugh in Canadians' face. And it's disgusting, to be clear. And well, we'll see if you do in fact provide those names finally this time. But after 16 months, I certainly don't believe you, and neither can Canadians.
Mr. Firth, did you want to respond to that?
So, we heard a lot of a discussion today about vendors and suppliers coming together to design the mandatory criteria. And the concerns that were outlined by the Auditor General and by the Ombudsman that this might actually artificially reduce competition. I think competition here is something serious that we raised a number of times, even today around this table. And so I think we do have a Competition Bureau Commissioner here in Canada. I'd like to hear from Mr. Boswell, who's the Competition Bureau Commissioner. And the reason I say that is because it's the role of the Competition Bureau Commissioner to ensure fair competition, to enforce fair competition, but also the Competition Bureau Commissioner provides advice to tendering agencies on how to protect the process, how to protect the competitive process. And as well, I would add that the Competition Bureau Commissioner also recently introduced or released what's called the Collusion Risk Assessment Tool. So I think the Competition Bureau Commissioner would provide some incredible light and information on securing and protecting competition in the procurement process. And so my motion is that I would ask that the committee invite the Competition Bureau Commissioner to appear for 2 hours on government procurement processes and address issues of competition, fair bidding, bid rigging, and how tendering authorities can protect the bid process, the competitive bid process itself. I think we would absolutely benefit from speaking with the Competition Bureau Commissioner.
Thanks. We'll start a speaking order. Mr. Genuis.
Chair, I think there's unanimous support for this motion, and I don't want to take time away from our limited time for witness. So I think if you put the question now, you'll find there's unanimous support for this, and we can just move on.
I think we were at that point before your intervention. Thank you. Colleagues, are we comfortable with that? Yes. We could actually maybe even do it parallel to the red tape reduction or as part of the red tape reduction, but we seem to have unanimous consent, so adopted. Thank you, Mr. Kusmirchuk. I appreciate that. We're now going to Mr. Baird, I believe, or Mr. Genuis? Yes. Mr. Genuis, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Firth, how many current contracts do you have with the Government of Canada?
We have 0 contracts right now.
Okay. Is it not the case that you have one outstanding that ends at the end of March?
Nope. That was cancelled. The resources were pulled off the project.
Okay. And this is because you've been suspended from getting certain kinds of contracts with the government, correct? Suspended but not outright banned. Is that accurate?
I'm correct. We've been suspended. But
okay.
We've lost our security clearance. We've lost our security clearances as well, so we cannot actually bid on that work.
Okay.
Well, any work.
How are you informed about this change to your procurement status?
Well, at first we found out in the House of Commons when the minister declared it, but we weren't aware of it. And then secondly, we were let know by PSPC.
Okay, so the minister said it before the contract had actually been cancelled?
Yeah, and also before our security had been cancelled.
Okay, so what was the lag time between the minister saying it had happened and when it actually happened?
3 hours.
Okay, so it happened the same day. Who from PSPC contacted you?
Can I get that to you? I don't have that in front of me right now.
Can you get it to us by 5 o'clock?
I think it was on, by 5 o'clock, yes.
Okay. Were you contacted by any other departments?
Only those people who we had resources remaining in there who actually removed the resources from their project.
Okay, on what dates were you contacted by other departments?
Again, can I kindly ask that I get that to you?
By 5, please. In the lead up to these changes, were you in discussions with government officials? Did you have any conversations about the possible suspension?
I had a conversation with a gentleman from PSPC where I indicated that I actually was going to terminate my security before it was suspended, because when you have no government contracts, it's kind of hard to get.
Who are you in touch with at PSPC? What's the gentleman's name?
I think his name's Nolan. No, Nolan was his first name. I can't remember his last name. Sorry, Belleville.
Okay.
I think Nolan was his first name.
Okay. And could you give us dates for those discussions?
Yes, I can.
Okay. What does the GC and GCstrategies stand for?
Sorry?
What does the GC?
Just Government of Canada. Just Government of Canada.
Okay, Government of Canada Strategies is the full name. Did you discuss your testimony today with anybody from the government?
No, I did not.
Okay. You'll confirm that, and we'll be able that you didn't just have any discussions with anyone.
I can confirm that.
Okay. Sir, I want to give you one more chance to answer the question that I asked previously. I think you should understand and appreciate the powers that Parliament has and the critical role that Parliament has in getting information from Canadians. And you may not like the criticism that entails, that sometimes flows from it, but we have a responsibility to stand up for taxpayers, and that includes being able to fulfill our functions as parliamentarians. So can you provide the names of the officials who you met with that I had previously requested for the contract where you sat down with government officials and worked out the terms of that contract? Can you provide the names of who you met with?
I appreciate the question, but unfortunately, again, I'm still taking the same stance that I was brought in here before the investigation was completed. And all assumptions is the RCMP has every allegation that's surrounding this. So at that point, I cannot interject.
Sir, have you been briefed by your lawyer on the constitutional principle, the supremacy of Parliament, the rights that parliamentary committees have when it comes to requesting information, the fundamental powers that in a democracy the legislature has to have? Have you been briefed on these issues? And if you have, then why do you persist in just disregarding those requirements?
I appreciate the question. So, unfortunately, I can't comment on that. But the conversations between myself and my lawyer are privileged.
You're privileged, all right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think there's quite an assertion of privilege from you that ignores the rights and responsibilities of democratically elected legislative bodies. So
that is our time, Mr. Generous.
I'm going to use my time, Mr. Chair, to move a motion arising from this study on ArriveCan. So I will move that in light of the recent finding that Dalian Enterprises received $7.9 million in funding for its work on ArriveCan, while CEO David Yao was an employee of the Department of National Defense, the committee call on Mr. Yao, as well as the following senior officials from the Department of National Defense: Minister of National Defense Bill Blair, Deputy Minister of National Defense Bill Matthews, Associate Deputy Minister Material Troy Crosby, and Assistant Deputy Minister Human Resources Isabel Desmartes, to appear before committee no later than April 1st, 2024 for no less than 2 hours of testimony. And I believe my staff can make that available in writing to the committee.
Thanks, Mr. Bacharach. So this is different than the February 29th when you had on notice. I thought that's what was getting.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just making sure if that's correct. Are you just putting this on notice right now, or are you putting it?
No, I'd like to move it and hopefully get to a vote in the minutes that are remaining of our meeting.
Thanks. I was just clarifying, sir. Thanks. Speakers.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah,
Would you mind if I speak quickly? Mr. Chair?
No, sorry, Mr. Firth. Sorry. We're attending something else, but we'll get to you shortly.
Yeah, I'm saying it's been 3 hours right now, and this is kind of where I think I can be.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I have to ask you to stay, Mr. Firth, and we may be able to get to our last couple of questioning rounds. But I just have to ask you to stand by for a bit here. Mr. Sousa, your hand is up, but I will get back to you shortly, Mr. Firth.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the revised version that's been submitted, correct? I think we were in agreement with what has been put forward.
Perfect. So we're all in agreement then, colleagues? Wonderful. So adopted. Mr. Firth, we just have two more last interventions, Mrs. Block and then Mr. Baines, but we'll have you out of here shortly. Mrs. Block, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Really quickly, Mr. Firth, do you have any contracts with provincial governments or any municipal governments at this time?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. The Auditor General noted that CBSA identified a resource that was added to one of your task authorizations as a subcontractor, and this resource was KPMG, and she noted that that was unusual. This is one of the 4 largest multinational firms worldwide, and yet they were placed on a tax authorization form as a subcontractor to your company. Do you know who approached KPMG to be put in place as a subcontractor to GCstrategies?
No, I know who approached me from KPMG, but I don't know. I don't know. In front of me right now, I can't comment on that. I'm sorry.
Who was your contact at KPMG?
Again, with all due respect, I'd like to give you that before 5 o'clock since I'm trying to get out of here.
Okay.
In writing.
Okay. At the same time, could you provide us with how much of a commission you would have earned as a result of that resource being placed on a tax authorization form?
Absolutely.
In response to some of the questions or comments that my colleague, Mr. Sousa, made in his previous intervention, the Auditor General, the Procurement Ombuds, the Comptroller General have all indicated that they are deeply concerned with what has been uncovered during this study. They believe that this could be an issue across other departments. In fact, the Auditor General noted 2 other departments. There are 10 investigations ongoing in regards to the irregularities, the mismanagement, and I think what could come down to criminality. And so my question for you actually is, are you aware of something called the Charbonneau loop, a term used in procurement and bidding?
No, sorry, I'm not.
Okay, Charbonneau loops ultimately happen when the pool of companies receiving public sector contracts for a given type of work is small enough that the same companies are sometimes overseeing and sometimes overseen by their peers in that same pool. Have you had any conversations with any of the other companies or firms that were bidding on the same contracts as you?
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. I guess, Chair, in follow-up to my questions around KPMG, I am wondering if you can confirm that we have actually invited KPMG to appear before our committee and if they have responded.
KPMG and all of the subcontractors have been invited, and we're working on dates.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have any?
You've got about 2 minutes left.
Okay. Okay, so I just want to confirm then, you said you have done some work in the private sector, and I'm not sure if I heard, did you provide us with a percentage of the work that you do between government and what percentage is from the private sector?
I can speculate to give you an answer, but it would not be 100% accurate. So would you like me to sketch the I don't have the exact number in front of me, and I don't want to do approximations. I'm just wondering, would you like me to get you the exact number or an approximation right now?
Sorry, I thought you had cut out. Yes, if you could just provide us with the percentage of work that you've done for the public sector, and I'm thinking specifically the federal government, the government of Canada, because it appears you haven't done any work with other levels of government. If you could give us the percentage that you have done with the federal government versus the percentage for the private sector, that would be appreciated.
Okay, I will provide that for you.
Thank you.
I thank everyone for sticking with us a bit past time. Yes, I'll get you, Mr. Genuis. Mr. Firth, thanks as well. Just quickly before you leave, Mr. Firth, Mr. Genuis, sir.
Thank you, Chair. And I think you can dismiss the witness, but having heard the totality of his testimony, I think it's important to raise a question of privilege
Let me
regarding
just
his
interrupt very
non-responses.
quickly.
Thank you.
Mr. Firth, we're going to dismiss you right now. Thank you for your time. I appreciate
Thank you, Chair. Can you also ask the clerk to summarize for me what I'm sending back in, please? And I also asked that I would even be home by 5 o'clock, so could that be later on in the evening, please?
Yes, I think we'll say 8 p.m. tonight, sir.
Tomorrow morning? Oh, sure. I'll try. 8 p.m. is... I'd rather, if it's still possible, to get it to you tomorrow morning. That's still possible.
9 a.m. tomorrow morning?
Perfect.
Okay, we'll do it for 9, and the clerk will send you an email with outlining what we're looking for. Before I get to you, Mr. Back, thanks, Mr. Firth. We'll dismiss you. I see Mr. Backrack, but Mr. Genuis says point of privilege. I think he's bringing up. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Simply this, that Mr. Firth has refused to answer direct questions that have been put to him by the Chair on behalf of this committee. This witness has shown complete disregard for the prerogatives and responsibilities of parliamentary committees when it comes to getting answers for Canadians. Chair, I believe that this is a violation of the privileges of this committee and that this needs to be attended to ensure that all parliamentary committees can insist upon responses to direct questions that are asked. Chair, if you agree that this is an issue of privilege, then I will be prepared to move the appropriate motion.
I've looked and I've chatted with the analysts, and I believe it is, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Then my motion is that the committee instruct the clerk and analyst to prepare a report to the House, which the Chair shall table forthwith, outlining the potential breach of privilege concerning Khristian Firth's refusal to answer those questions which the committee agreed to put to him, and his prevarication in answering others.
Thank you. The clerk is just sending it out to everyone's P9 right now. I'm happy to suspend for about a minute till it gets out to everyone. Now been received at everyone's P9. Are we, I don't see anyone's hands up. Are we in agreement with this then, colleagues? Besides Mr. Backrack, we'll get you. Agreed? Wonderful. So passed. Mr. Backrack, you have your hand up, sir, before we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just recognizing that we're right at the end of the meeting, I wonder if you could provide the committee on an update on your efforts to have the Canada Post CEO come before committee as part of our study on rural postal service.
Great. Thanks for bringing that up, Mr. Backrack. I'll be honest, we have reached out repeatedly to Canada Post, and we are not seeing a lot of cooperation on having them attend. We wrote to them, I think it was yesterday?
Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, we wrote to them this week, Monday or Tuesday, asking again. And again, I've not received a response. I will update the committee hopefully tomorrow or Monday at our next meeting. But I think we're at the point where we might need a bit stronger invite. Perhaps there's summons or some other form to have the president show up. We've been very flexible, offering various dates, but we're just not getting anything back from that side, Mr. Backrack. So I'll update you tomorrow if I have anything, but otherwise on Monday. Then we can perhaps take other steps Monday. But I understand your concerns. It is an important issue we need to get to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll come to our meeting tomorrow with the appropriate preparations to bring the CEO before the committee. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Backrack. I do appreciate it. Colleagues, if there's nothing else, again, I'll thank our clerk, our analysts, and all of our support team for sticking around late. And we are adjourned.